How do you look at the city of Detroit today? Because after all, there has been quite a dramatic change in the city over the past 3.5 to 4 decades. I always contrast it to Chicago, which at one time was not that dissimilar from Detroit, but is a very different city ethnically and racially now than Detroit is. A lot of problems in Detroit. Can it be turned around down there in your estimation?
Of course it can, but you've got to start with dedicated, honest administration. Now, I remember, Coleman Young, we differed a good amount, but basically, I think he was honest. And during the first 2 terms, first 8 years, I think he did a nice job. But he started to make, and then he continued for the 20 years, for the other 12 years, where it's my way or the highway. And once you get that attitude in providing the services, of running the city, when you look at businessmen, you look at residents, hey, as soon as I can afford it, I'm getting out of here. Now that continued. What they should have done is what I did was trying to integrate the black community. Now they're 60% black, African American, or 70%. They should integrate the white community by giving them positions of authority and bringing in principled people, honest and dedicated, and it's not happening under the current administration, as unfortunately. And so the people that can afford to go now, I don't know precisely, but somewhere like 42% of the people are not tax-paying people. Now, if you don't have a base of people with means, I don't mean rich people, it's somebody that has a job. Either they're on welfare or a part-time job, and they don't earn enough to pay taxes.
Right.
The city of Detroit has an income tax, and in an effort to draw revenue, and you got to have the people, you got to have the jobs in Detroit. Now, one of the things that I did do when I was mayor, and I don't make the point is, when I became mayor, the Detroit Renaissance, the board began, and Dwight Havens was the president of the Chamber of Commerce. It was his idea. And he said to me, he came to me as mayor, he said, this is in the offing, and we'd like to start it, and you and the governor will be honorary voting while you're in office. But they wanted to pull together all of the industrial and economic leaders of the community, patterned after the Pittsburgh 100, I think. So he brought in, he said, I wanted to have Max Fisher be chairman, and we're going to invite all the top executives only, not substitutes, as to voting. So the membership is Henry Ford II. At that time, Lynn Townsend was head of Chrysler. Right. And Murphy was the president of General Motors in those times. And all of those men would come once every 2 months or 3 months. They had an executive director that would stimulate the economic regeneration of Detroit. And one of the first things during one of the first meetings, by that time, as mayor, I look out the window, as you know, it's on Jefferson, and right across the hall was the waterworks. That's where it used to be the intake provision for the water department. By this time, they're at North of Port Huron for their intakes, the water out of Lake Huron there, and this area became available. And what to do with this area between Jefferson and the waterfront. And they thought maybe we would have a arts festival and all kinds of ideas. I took the land, the city of Detroit owned most of that land there because of the waterworks department. And I took it to the board, I said, and I remember Henry Ford was there, we had pictures, I said, here's a project that I would like this board address. Look at valuable property. What are we going to do with it? Henry Ford took it, started the idea, talked to the fellow in the city of Atlanta.
Atlanta, Georgia, or Atlantic City?
Atlantic City.
Atlantic City, New Jersey.
No, I'm sorry, Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia, sorry.
That's right, yeah. And he had done the downtown of that area.
Right, Peachtree.
Yes.
Peachtree Plaza.
Exactly.
There you go.
And so Henry Ford hired him to develop something for this land, and he then came up, spearheaded Detroit Renaissance, and he announced that in my office, and you have the date, the announcement, I think it was
Right.
72. And that was the beginning of the...
that was really almost one of the great signal accomplishments of your administration.
Well, I'm very proud to have done that.
Yeah.
When I left, they had the foundation done and half the steelwork was up. It was that complex, that big.
Right.
The whole project was initially to cost $350,000. And Henry Ford is the one that would talk to, okay, your share is $6 million. I mean,
Right.
$350 million for the whole
Right.
project. And Ford contributed $6 million, GM 6, National Bank of Detroit maybe $2 million. All of those contributed to that investment
They all
to
pitched
build the Detroit,
Yeah.
later named Detroit Renaissance, the Renaissance Center.
All right, you were baptized Roman Gribbs, but I understand a lot of people call you Ray Gribbs. When did this start? In your youth, in the Thumb, in Detroit? Do they call you Roman? Do they call you Ray? Do they call you both?
They call me both, yeah.
You didn't really have any fellow politicians until that senator from Nebraska.
Well, yeah.
Does that make you feel a little better?
It made me feel a little better. When I was a kid, Roman was such an unusual name, very Polish.
Yeah.
A very common name in the
Right.
Polish community and in Poland. By the way, I've been there a number of times, and I got a cute story to tell you about that. But there was Roman Hruska became senator. Then we had a quarterback by the name.
Oh, Roman Gabriel.
You got it.
I remember Roman
And so
Gabriel.
those two brought the name Roman out, and
yeah.
it's kind of acceptable. So
Yeah.
I have to touch on this. When I was
Yeah.
mayor, they had a delegation of Polish mayors going through the United States as
Yeah.
official guests of the State Department.
Yeah.
And later on, the Polish government said, bring us some mayors from Detroit. We will host them. So they invited me, and I went, and I was there. And the mayor, Alessandro, the mayor of Baltimore, was there,
Yeah.
and a number of other guys. 10 or 12 of us went to visit different places in Poland because I could understand Polish and I could speak it somewhat, not a lot, not thoroughly, but a
Yeah.
conversational
Yeah.
Polish, I could do it. So I was designated the chairman of the group, and we had a nice visit for about 5 days all over Poland, Krakow and Częstochowa and
Fabulous.
Warsaw. But the big thing was my mother, who immigrated from Poland, had never been back. And I persuaded her, and she'd never been flying, but I persuaded her, I bought her a ticket. When this is over, I'll meet you in Warsaw. I had some friends put her on a plane, and I said, I'll meet you in Warsaw. And I had a car, and we drove down to the southern part of Poland, and she visited her old homestead, and I remember crossing the little
Oh,
river.
my gosh.
She's singing the Polish songs.
Really? No kidding.
It was a great. We
That had to
spent
be-
several days together there. Then we both flew back together.
Thank you, Judge Gribbs, Mayor Gribbs, whichever. It's been a huge pleasure to have you come and talk to the Michigan Political History Society. What a story you had to tell.
As we say in Hamtramck, dziękuję bardzo. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure, privilege. I've been a lucky son of a gun all my life. So I'm grateful for the chance to chat about the old days.